Hi guys, a very good evening to all of you. Today I'm sure a lot of you have given this exam called IPMAT Rohtak and you're all excited, nervous, apprehensive. You want to find out what exactly happened in this exam. How was it with respect to the last year, because we know some idea about the last year's cutoff. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened in the exam today and how did this exam fare with respect to the last year, what was the comparison section wise, and therefore can we draw any conclusions with respect to the expected cutoffs, keeping the last year's score as the benchmark. Now, I'm sure you guys know this fact that last year the general category cutoff was 265. I have the entire list, but I'm going to talk about the category wise cutoffs for this year also. So stay tuned. So let's start off with what happened in this particular year and how was it different. Firstly, the paper, if you compare it overall with respect to the last year, it was slightly, overall if you compare it was slightly more easier. I'm not saying it's much more easier. In fact, the difficult portion was English. The English was the difficult part of the three sections. Last year and this year, definitely this year the English was difficult. Even this year, if you compare English versus logic versus maths, there is no doubt was the that verbal, that is the English, was the difficult of the three areas. Now, students, when I spoke to a lot of students, there was a debate whether logic was easier or maths was easier, but I found quite a few of the students saying that logic was slightly more easier than quant. So I would say the logical reasoning was the easiest in today's paper. So the order in terms of easiness would be logical reasoning, the easiest. Slightly more difficult than this would probably be your math. And a little bit more difficult, the gap here in difficulty level will be lesser than the gap here. Math and English was a bit more difficult compared to your math. So this is basically what happened with respect to your difficulty level. Now, if you compare this versus last year, because that's very important for us to understand, because we are basing our conclusion based on what happened last year and adjusting for a few factors. So last year, the logic and math, apparently I was told that the difficulty levels were either same or probably a little bit lower. They were either same but or a little bit lower in terms of difficulty level versus last year. Whereas English, definitely, hands down, every student that I spoke to said that it was definitely difficult than expected. Compared to last year, this year English was a bit more on the higher side. And that goes with students who are attending the session right now too, I believe. Yes, Agarwal, Vansh Agarwal, English was definitely not the easier section. Absolutely, do you call it very difficult? No, it's not very difficult, but yes, relatively it was a bit more than what was expected. So let me put it that way. I will not say in absolute terms it's really difficult, but yes, what I would say is what was expected and what we got a little bit on the higher side, but the other two sections weren't like that, were not like that. Okay. Then the next thing is jumbled sets. So the one surprise about this basically was the sets were jumbled. Now, usually what happens, what do you mean by the sets were jumbled? Why is that a problem? I was told that even reading comprehension, which has 3-4 questions coming after one section, basically these sets were, they were jumbled up. So first question came, then the second question was not in order. So third, fourth, fifth, then the sixth question was again RC. So basically what you read here, you should remember till the next one, because you don't know where that next question is going to come and actually how many questions are there. So that is the problem when you jumbled up a particular set based question. And this happened in English as well as logic, it seems. Now that is actually a bit of a concern, because normally when you have, let's say especially RC, you read the passage, you keep the data in your mind, you keep the analysis in your mind, and you try to finish it off and then move on. You shift delete it from your mind. Your mind is fresh. That passage is over. You throw it out. You start afresh the next one. Here, you have an RC, you read one passage and you got one question. Then you're supposed to keep the data in your mind, go forward and realize that, okay, there's one more question coming. And in fact, students didn't know this till they got into the exam. However, one thing which was known, it's not that it was a complete surprise. At least when you're reading the instructions, it seems it was mentioned that the set based questions can be jumbled up, and the reasoning given was there should not be students copying the entire set. So if I'm solving a set, I can say continuously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are the answers to my next student. The problem comes if I jumble it up, I can't easily say what is the first question, what is the second question, and what is the answer therefore. But I don't know whether it's justifiable or not, because you're really, as an exam, you're really testing the students unnecessarily, because you're asking them to remember something here and then remember that in the 10th question or 12th question also. Why should I remember an RC once it is done? Anyway, so that's debatable. Let's move on from there. So this was not expected, but that's what happened. The sets were jumbled. Okay. There's one more thing which was actually a surprise, was that there was no sectional time limit. Now guys, if you remember, Rohtak officially announced that this year for the first time they will be introducing the sectional time limit. Everyone was expecting a 40-minute section. So students would have prepared accordingly, that I'll be spending 40 minutes on English, I'll be spending 40 minutes on maths and 40 minutes of logical reasoning, and they would have devised strategies accordingly. Last few days, 1 or 2 months, they would have written mocks in that manner, because officially you announce something, you have to stick to it. Once again, unfortunately, the exam did not stick to what they have announced, which is, in my opinion, not the ideal way to test a student. Either you tell them and you stick to it, or you don't tell something and you say, okay, everything is open. You decide what you want to do. We will do what we want. But misleading is not the right way. So they did not mention. In fact, if you did not mention and you still do it, there's no problem. But if you mention something and do something else differently completely, then that is, in my opinion, not the right way as a prestigious institute that is coming up with an exam. Anyway, so there's no sectional time limit. But one advantage of this is, yes, of course, the students practiced whatever they practiced, but if the student is smart, they can quickly analyze that, okay, there is no sectional time limit, and therefore I can start with the section of my choice. I can start with what I like. I don't have to spend 40 minutes for every section. I can spend more time in those sections which I like, therefore trying to maximize my score. Spend a little bit less time in the sections which are my weakness, because I will unnecessarily be wasting my time. So yes, that kind of jugglery could have been possible if you did not panic and if you are smart enough. A lot of students that I've spoken to have said that, have done that. So this is, in a broad sense, is it good for the students? Yes. In fact, I always love an exam which does not give sectional time limit. But on the flip side, is it a good thing to do, saying something and doing something else? Personally, I don't feel so, because as an exam which wants to set a standard, you cannot announce something and do something else. But let's move on. Then there's a third problem, or rather not a problem, third surprise or unexpected thing is, once again, one more point which the exam announced but did not do, was giving you an on-screen calculator. Obviously, this is not required for English, not usually required for logic, but it was mentioned in the official communication that there will be an on-screen calculator given for the maths section, which could be used. It's a different issue that you did not necessarily need it, because a lot of questions in maths could be done without calculator. Ideally, that's how you train anyway. But then again, if you announce something, you should stick to it. But this did not happen this year. There was no on-screen calculator available. So these three were the kind of surprises, in my opinion, as far as today's exam of Rohtak goes. Okay, so that's basically what happened. So that's the broad idea. So let's go ahead and take a look at section-wise, basically what is happening. So if you look at it, of course, this is basically, at least they stuck to the number of questions. It was maths, logic and verbal. The first section was actually verbal, second section was logic, third section was quant, but it doesn't really matter what is first, second, third, because any student could have gone to any section. So the order doesn't really matter, right? That's what happened. The exam structure was as per what they mentioned. Let's take a look at the marking scheme. This was again not changed. It was expected. They at least stuck to this. +4 marks for a right question, -1 for a wrong question or a question answered wrongly. And of course, no marks, 0 marks for a the question left unattempted. And of course, all questions were MCQs. Unlike IPMAT Rohtak, Indore, here Rohtak does not test in non-MCQ or TITA, type in the answer questions. So that was expected. So that's how it was. It was multiple choice questions, all of them. Okay. And of course, as I said, there was no sectional time limit. That was unexpected. I mean, it was something different, but it's something that I would have been happier had they announced it, because I always love exams which does not restrict a student to a certain time limit. But anyway, moving on. Now, if you're looking at difficulty level, I would say quant, I would rate it as easy to moderate. It was not really difficult at all. A lot of questions could be solved. A lot of questions were simple. Mostly it was arithmetic heavy. That was expected. Once again, the paper pattern did not change. As far as your quant and logic is concerned, the paper pattern did not really change. You were, or rather everyone was expecting a heavy arithmetic paper, which is what actually happened this time also. In fact, we will see the breakup. Again, logical ability was easy. It was, in my opinion, a little bit more easier than expected. Again, my opinion is based on the students' information. Obviously, I hope all of you know, students above the age of 20 are not allowed to write the exam. So all of us faculty members cannot write the exam. Yes, there was no geometry question, Mudranki, that's correct. I have that in the quant sectional analysis. I will mention that. But yes, geometry was expected, but that was not there. Good or bad, depending upon whether you like geometry or not. A student like me who does not like geometry would be very happy that there's no geometry question. But then, yes, somebody who likes geometry would be disappointed. Logical section, as I said, was a bit easy. In fact, it is easier than the quant section. But the thing, as I mentioned again, is logical section had few sets of 3 questions or so. Again, the problem with the logic section was in the set-based questions where they were jumbled up just like your RC. Again, the problem is the same as an RC. When you try to solve a logic-based question, you create the data set and you write it as a piece of paper somewhere. And you mark everything, whatever, you form your grids, you form your tabular arrangement, ranking, whatever, you do that, you mark everything there. Then you expect 4 questions to come, you solve it one after the other, and then you move on. Now what happens is you have this set, 1 question coming here, then after 7-8 questions, another question coming there. So what happens after this question? You'll have some other question coming in. So in this paper, like this, in this length, you will start doing, okay, this is question number 1. You did this calculation, only 1 question was answered. The second question was completely different. You use this space, question number 3, again you use the space, question number 4, the paper is over. After 1 or 2 papers, the continuation of this comes in. Then you'll keep searching, okay, where did I solve? You'll go back to start searching for this grid, you'll find it in one of the papers that you have done. All that could happen to students. If you are lucky, you would have had the questions coming to you within a short burst of 2-3 gaps. If you are unlucky, you could have got it even after 10-12 questions also. So that's the problem in this paper, which was again something that I discussed as far as your English is concerned, English RC is concerned. Okay. Detailed video solution, Sanskar, no, we are not giving a detailed video solution of all questions. Firstly, because the paper is not officially given out and it's difficult for us to form the entire paper based on memory of the students. Also, we are not allowed, the students are not allowed to share, neither is anybody allowed to discuss that on a public platform. So we cannot talk about each and every question unless they release the paper themselves, right? So we'll have to wait and watch for that time. Okay. Okay. So this is where we are, and of course English was moderate. Now again, as I said, English is not really difficult, but yes, relatively it was a bit more difficult. So let's go ahead and take a look at what could be a sectional level good number of attempts and what happened in each one of these particular sessions. Okay. Okay, so the good attempts, so let's start with the good attempts. In my understanding of how the exam went based on what the students said, most of the students were smart enough to understand that there is no sectional time limit. So let me look at spending or finishing off one section as soon as possible and save that time in answering another section, which usually takes time. Now, normally maths takes a little bit more time than 40. And whereas English students, good student will be able to finish English in 30 to 32 minutes. An above average student also in an IPMAT Rohtak kind of an exam should be able to finish it off in 38, 37 minutes. So a student who understands this should have spent anywhere between 34 to 35 minutes in verbal, finish the section off, should not have spent too much of time trying to decide what the right answer is. English, guys, always remember, English, especially grammar, vocab, you hit it or get out. So that's what they say, right? Like a pinch hitter. You don't go there to play defense. You go there, either you hit a 6 or you get bowled out or caught out. So you are not going there to waste time. You're going there to either increase the run rate or just get out. That's how English is supposed to be used. And this is not just for Rohtak. Remember, any entrance exam in your life, wherever there is no sectional time limit, always use English and general knowledge, current affairs sections as the ones which you can finish off, save time there and use it in the other sections which are time consuming, which is what students did here. So they saved this 5-6 minutes and they spent that extra 5-6 minutes in the quant. Now they could have either used it in quant or logic. Mostly students spent in quant because quant was doable, and what I was told is that logic did not require more than 40 minutes even if you are just above average. Even it's not that you are brilliant in logic, but even if you are above average, you can get a decent number of questions in about 40 minutes spent. And it's there. In fact, what we understood is that spending that 5-6 extra minutes in quant could be more helpful than spending that in logic. But then again, it all depends on what is your level of comfort in each one of these levels. Somebody is very poor in math, spending that extra 5-6 minutes in logic makes more sense, because if you are very poor in math, whatever you could do in 40 minutes you could have done, which means other questions are out of your league. So that's the reason why you are poor in math. So you don't understand everything. Whatever are easy you could have done in 40 minutes anyway. So the other remaining 5-6 minutes you could have spent it in the logic section. Anyway, so the good number of attempts here would have been 29 to 30 in quant, because as I said, it is not difficult at all. It was doable. And logical reasoning was 31 to 32 questions. Again, as I said, it is easy. The question paper was easy. It was not difficult, not too many bouncers. In fact, I was told that in this entire section, there were not too many bouncers except one question or two questions in quant, which I will discuss. There's one question, one issue in the question. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but at least I was told that there is one question in the issue. I'll discuss that. You will have to correct me if it is true or false. But that's what basically happened. But in English, the attempts will come down, and it's not because of lack of time. It's because of the difficulty level. It's not, I'm sure students could have finished the paper given that entire 36-35 minutes. But not every question was attemptable. There are some meanings that students did not know in synonyms and antonyms. If you don't know the meaning, you can't risk because there is a negative mark. So that is the reason why the attempts in English would not be very high. It would be around 29 to 30 the least. In fact, that would be same as probably math, I would say. Why am I saying English is difficult but still the same number of attempts as math? Simply because maths take time. Even if it is easy, maths will still take time. Whereas English, if it is easy, this attempt should have gone up to 35-36. But because it is moderate, it is still having the same number of attempts as maths. So that's the logic. You might be wondering, why am I putting this and this same? It is actually same because if English is easier, the attempts will be much more. It will be crossing 34-35. If maths is easier also, it will not cross 32, 33, because even an easy paper in maths will still take time. So I would say 30, even a 31 would be a good attempt in maths. So overall, I'm being a little bit conservative, putting it at 29 to 30, right? So that's basically what happened. Yes, correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. QA will always take time. Even if it is easy, it will take time. There's no doubt about it. Yes, diameter had a fun channel, you are right. So that I think was the question which had a problem, diameter and height. There was a question which spoke about curve surface area. We'll get into that, but I think that question was kind of an issue in that. We will see whether that really is an issue or not. I have noted down the numbers mentioned to me. You can all correct me if I'm mistaken, but otherwise probably there is one question that could be potentially an issue, which could potentially have an issue in quant. But options are in decimals. Yes, Mudranki, that's exactly what I'm talking about, that ratio question. So, okay, overall would be around 90 questions would have been a good attempt. So that's about 3/4 of the paper. 90 out of 120 is 3/4. So 75% of the paper, an attempt of 75% of the paper, that is about 90 questions would have been or would be considered as a good attempt. That would give you a score of 281. Now, please don't multiply this directly by 4 and say my score is that. You'll also have to consider and accuracy level, you'll also have to consider negative marks. So my estimate is that this will not directly be into 4, because this is into 4, this is 90 into 4. So 90 into 4 is 360, but obviously 360 is not your expected score, because you're not going to have 100% accuracy, right? So English would be somewhere around 80% or 78, 79% accuracy. Your logic could be around 85% accuracy. Your maths could be around 90% accuracy. Based on that, we came up with some kind of an estimate scores. Again, remember, this is taken some percentage of accuracy levels. Usually math students get around 85 to 90% accuracy levels. In logic, students get around 80 to 85% accuracy levels. Even if it is easy, it will be around 85 plus. Whereas in verbal, normally the accuracy level itself will be around 80, 85. That is in a normal paper, but a little bit difficult paper, moderate level difficulty paper, I would probably say 75 to 80 will be your accuracy level. So based on that, we expect these to be the scores, and basis that, we would probably say around 280 is a cutoff possibility. We are looking at, for general category, the cutoff possibility to be around 280, but I have an entire section wise expectation. Please hold on for that. I have that coming up at the in the next few slides. So please hold on. Don't ask. I'm sure you're all wondering why have I put only general category, because we are based on this. We are going to look at the expected cutoff for the other categories also. So we always work with benchmark. So we benchmark something and then we look at the other categories expected based on this benchmark. So that's how it goes. Okay, so let's go ahead. IPMAT 2022 safe score, Aditya, we can't predict before the exam has happened. So let's wait. We'll do IPMAT analysis also once the exam is done. But let's start with verbal ability. So guys, RCs. Okay, so the thing about RCs was that they were 3 RCs, I believe. And it was about 2 questions and 3 questions, if I'm not mistaken. So I was told that the RCs, 1 or 2 were easy, but 1 RC was lengthy and not very easy. So smart students would have left that lengthier one. The other thing that students also said is, you have to read so much of passage and get only 2 questions out of it. And the other thing, the problem is, see, if I know that there are 4 or 5 questions for an RC, I would have done that. The problem here is the RCs are jumbled up. So I really don't know how many questions are coming in. So I read the passage expecting 3 to 4 questions, because last year there were 5 questions in an RC and there were 2 RC passages and 5 questions, 10 questions. Students expected the same and they did the RCs and they wasted some time in the RC because they read a lot, understood the passage, and then finally realized at the end of the section that only 2 questions came or only 3 questions came, because they did not know beforehand how many questions were there. Or even if you knew, doing 2 questions for an entire RC could be, I don't know if it is justifiable depending upon the time constraint, how fast you are. Anyway, idioms and phrases had a decent number of questions, about 4 to 5 I was told. Error detection, that is grammar, had about 2 to 3 questions. Spelling errors, again not very easy. There was one sparrow which was the easiest of these spelling errors, but otherwise the questions were, 1 or 2 other questions were difficult in spellings. Spellings, trust me guys when I say this, spellings are always difficult. I always say this, there are a lot of other MBA entrance exams also where spellings come in and students do falter because they don't give completely different spellings. They'll give the same spelling in different ways. So if I give sparrow, S-P-A-R-R-O-W, I would then give S-P-O-R-R-O-W. They'll give S-P-A-R-O-W. So you'll get 4 confusing options. And that the more you look at the options, the more you'll get confused. So that's the problem with spelling error. But yes, this was an easy question, but the other 2, I believe I was told that one was actually difficult, the other one was probably doable. Then you had word rearrangement. You had 3-4 words and you had to form a sentence out of it. The best way to rearrange the word, there were about 2-3 questions that way. Okay, Vibor, IPMAT admit cards are not yet out. Typically, IPMAT admit cards will be out 3 to 4 days before the exam. So it is not a surprise. Don't panic. That is normal. Okay, so IPMAT will give out the admit card 3 to 4 days before the exam. So hold on. Don't worry about it. Okay. Mudit, Pharaoh was easy, yes, depending upon whether you have come across the word or not. I don't know how many of you read. Pharaoh is not usually a term that you come across in terms of spelling. Because many of the students know, you would have seen the movie called Mummy and all, but then how many of you would have noticed the spelling of the word? So yes. Okay. High school is asking, I did not appear for Rohtak but gonna appear for Indore. What difficulty level of each section? High school, I don't know what your name is, but yes, Indore will be definitely more difficult compared to your Rohtak. English would be a little bit more difficult than what came here, but it will be having RCs, a lot more RCs than what we had in Rohtak. Also keep in mind the maths is not going to be this easy. Maths will be having a healthy mix of algebra and arithmetic. Rohtak paper is heavy on arithmetic, whereas Indore's paper will be a decent mix of algebra and arithmetic. So that's one of the differences, and the questions, the standard of the questions in Indore are going to be 1 or 2 notches, not even one, probably I'll say 2 notches more than that of Rohtak. So please keep that in mind. Hitesh is asking what happens next year, will the competition increase? Yes Hitesh, little bit, but not something that you need to be really worried about. I'm expecting Rohtak to have been written by around 10 to 11,000 students or 11 to 12,000 students this year, whereas next year that could probably be, even a positive expectation could be around 13,000, 14,000, not more than that. I don't think it will become double overnight, so don't worry about that Hitesh. The increase will be definitely be there, but it's not something that has to really worry you. Okay. Pratik, that's what I'm saying. The guess would be around 10 to 11,000 for this year. Okay. Hitesh, if you're looking at IPM along with boards, I would probably say an hour and a half per day is more than sufficient for your Indore. In fact, even if you're doing it for 1 year, every day you spend 1 hour only for Indore, that's good enough. You don't need hours and hours. This is not like an IIT JEE exam. 1 hour, 1.5 hours per day is more than sufficient. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. Yes, so as I said, the level was moderate. We had other questions: sentence completion, parajumbles, analogies, synonyms and antonyms, about 4 to 5. We had vocab was not really easy. Apparently, there's few questions in synonyms and antonyms which are straightforward, but again, it was not really that. Not all questions were that straightforward. There were 1 or 2 questions which were unheard of, or the words were not really understood by the students. So I would not say synonyms and antonyms were really easy or really difficult, but yes, 2 or 3 words. So let me put it this way: out of this 4 or 5, around 2 were known for everyone. Around 1 was somewhat like this, and 1 was definitely not known to quite a few of the students. So I would probably say synonyms and antonyms were about moderate level. Similarly, your parajumbles actually I was told that these were easy, especially because the students who were smart were able to eliminate the options. So it's not that you got the correct answer, but when it comes to parajumbles, you can see that, okay, A and C should be together. So whichever option does not have A and C, you can eliminate. And the options were created in such a way that if you get this link, 3 options are gone. Only 1 option is remaining. So that's how they created. So the parajumbles turned out to be easier because the link, if you catch, you can eliminate the options and get the answer. This is the problem when you're talking about Rohtak versus Indore. In Indore, your parajumbles are going to be type short answers or type in the answers. So there are no options in Indore. That is the reason why parajumbles in Indore will end up being a bit more difficult than what happens in Rohtak. Same parajumble, if I give you with and without options, the without options version will be rated 1 level more than the with options version. So please keep that in mind, guys. Same parajumble, without options and with options. With options will definitely be easier than without options. So that means your parajumbles in your Indore exam will be a bit more difficult than your parajumbles in your Rohtak, simply because options are taken out. That is not even talking about the difficulty level of the parajumble itself, just because of the factor of options. So keep that in mind when you're looking at parajumbles next week. You have your exam of Indore. My strong suggestion would be to leave your parajumbles to the end. Don't start with English parajumbles in your Indore, even if you're good at it, because they come without options. If they come with options, yes, you can do it. But if they come without options, please leave it to the end. Okay. High school, what's your question? Which chapters are necessary for command on which subject? High school, I'm not able to see which subject you're talking about. Okay, what can we do for verbal ability for better score of 2024 aspirants? Pratik, 2024 is about 2 years ahead. First recommendation, I would say, get into the habit of reading. Forget about competitive exam. For the next 6 months, get into the habit of reading. Read a book, read a magazine, read a paper, I don't care. But read anything outside your syllabus. Read a novel, read a paper, read at least for every day 1 hour. Next 6 months, blindly do that. 2024 is a bit far away, but yes, if your reading is not good, you are dead in the exam. So start with it, okay? Is it worth it if you're getting admission to other top BBA colleges? Hitesh, you are already using the word top, and is it worth it? I mean, the question is self-answering. If it's a top BBA college, yes, it is worth it, but it also depends on what is your ambition. See guys, please don't ever ask me, is this thing good? There are 2-3 things which you need to understand when you ask a question. Is this good? It all depends on who you are. What is your capability? See, a guy who can score 350 in Rohtak would probably say Rohtak is not good enough for me because I can score 350 and I can score 300 plus in Indore. I will go for Indore because Indore is a better college. Somebody who cannot score 200 in Rohtak would probably will jump if given a seat in Rohtak because that is beyond the dream. So it's always a function of who you are, what is your capability versus what college you're looking at. So please, when you ask me a question, it should be with respect to what other options are you looking at. Okay? Okay, high school you're looking at quants. See, if you're looking at Indore quant, you will be looking at algebra. You're going to look at arithmetic. Definitely these two. If you don't prepare these two, forget about everything else. These two are a must. So start with these two, my friend. If these two are done, then you can go on to PNC plus probability. Then you can look at geometry and others. But these two are your primary sources of marks. Okay? Guys, we are getting into something else now. Please hold on. There are a lot of students waiting for cutoffs and expectations. So we are getting into how to prepare for 2024 and 2023. Guys, you have a lot of time. Please hold on. We will first cater to the students who have wrote the exam today and are dying of nervousness with respect to what the score is going to be. So let's go ahead and take a look quickly. Verbal section was relatively difficult, as I said, to the other two sections. RC questions were jumbled up, that was already discussed. Yes, and with respect to last year also the paper was difficult, that was also discussed. So let's move on and take a look at the quant. So the quant section, if you're going to look at number theory or number system, that is HCF, reminders, LCM, those kind of questions were about 3 to 4. Time and work had a lot of questions. 4 to 5 is not a small number. In fact, TSD and TNW, can be grouped together as one topic. You're looking at anywhere between 7 to 9 questions from this one topic out of 40, which is an insane number of questions by any stretch of imagination. Last year also they gave about 6 to 7 questions, and this time they upped the number of questions by 7 to 8 or around 8 to 9 questions. I don't know exact count, but yes, there were a lot of questions from these two sections, which was not surprising because last year also they gave about 7 questions or so from these two. But yes, they added 1 or 2 more questions on top of that. So I'll not say it's a surprise, but yes, in the broad sense, asking so many questions from a single topic is always a surprise. Ratios, there were about 2 or 3 percentages, there were about 2 or 3, there were others also. Let's go ahead and take a look at yes, so there was one error in mensuration question. I'll quickly talk about it. Let me know if the question is right or wrong, the numbers are correct. So there was a question which said curved surface area of a cylinder was 528 and the volume of this cylinder is 1848. They asked you the ratio of diameter to height. So the diameter to height ratio apparently will turn out to be 7 by 6 based on this. In fact, I did the calculation. It's not apparent. It is actually 7 by 6. But if you notice, 7 by 6 is greater than 1. Right? 7 by 6 is greater than 1. 1.16666. But all options were in 0 point. All option was in 0 point. So obviously this answer was not there in the answer option. So if this is that true? All of you found the same thing? Okay, is that what happened, guys? Are the numbers correct? Yes, high school, if you want to get a good score, please focus only on arithmetic and algebra. That's it, if you have less time. Okay, so if this is the case, then this is definitely an error in the question because D by H here will be more than 1. 7 by 6 is the correct ratio. But this was not there. Which means that question will be, okay, now you might be answering, You might be wondering what will happen to this. Guys, remember, whenever in a competitive exam, a question is wrong, in such a case, they will delete the question for everyone. They will not give everyone marks. They will not give marks only to those people who answered. Nothing like that will happen. They will just say this question is deleted, which means people who did not answer or people who answered will have no effect of that question. They will not get any extra marks, or they will, even if you got it wrong, it will not be negative. Okay? Gautam, that's what I'm saying. IPMAT's admit card will be coming to you 3 to 4 days before the exam. Last year also it was like that, so don't worry. 3 to 4 days before the exam. Okay, so we had this, then we had, where were we? Yes, so continuing with this, SSEI, profit and loss mixture. So if you notice, it was a very heavy paper on arithmetic. Arithmetic heavy, you can see that almost 50% or more than that, in fact, came from this topic of arithmetic. In fact, you had, as I said, you had in time and work, time and distance, here itself you had about 7 to 9 questions. Then add ratios, percentages, then you have SICI, all of them you add, you will have more than 20 questions coming from arithmetic alone, which was again not surprising because that is a trend for Rohtak, which I believe should be good. Why should a manager know a lot about algebra? At least arithmetic, basic calculation, smartness of brain, that should be tested, which I am happy with in Rohtak. That way, commenting on Indore, asking about matrices, I don't know why should matrices be questioned there, but then yes, they ask it, that's it's fair because they announce it beforehand. It's not that suddenly they're giving you something, but yes, the difference between Rohtak and Indore I find is, Rohtak tests, in my opinion, what is truly needed. Indore goes a bit more overboard, asks things which might not be really required for a student, but that's my opinion. That's not true for everyone. That's fine. Let's go ahead. Finally, the logical section. Let's take a look at what happened in the logical section. We had series-based questions, letter series, number series, about 4 to 5, which is a decent number. We had coding and decoding, blood relations. We had no direction sense this time. And there was no DI. So DI was not there in quant, nor was it there in logic. Anyway, DI does not come in logic, but it was missing from the quant. And noticeably, the geometry was also missing from the quant section. Whereas in logic, we had calendars. Okay, one thing happened, clocks came under the quant section. Typically, we put clocks and calendars in LR, but then again, it's up to the examiner. They gave, I think, one question from clocks came under quant, but calendars came in this logic. Then seating arrangements, there were 2 questions, set-based questions. Even blood relations was a set of 2 questions jumbled up. One question was in one place, another question was in one place. So you solved the set, you wrote down the entire arrangement, and then you had only one question. And then after a long time, another question comes in. So that's what anyway happened. So LR sets were jumbled up. No DI sets or data sets. So okay, data sufficiency was expected but did not come in this year. Last year there were around 3 questions, if I'm not mistaken, from data sufficiency. So that was expected of students, by students rather, but that did not turn up, or that did not come up in this particular exam, this year's exam. And 40 minutes was enough. So the paper was designed in such a way, this section was designed in such a way that 40 minutes would have been enough for a student to finish all 40. I'm not saying you will be marking all 40, at least you would have read and finished the section saying that, okay, these I can solve, these I cannot solve, even if you give me extra time. So students would not have needed more time to finish the section. So 40 was a perfect time. So it was a perfectly balanced paper when it comes to logic. Maths always, whether you make it balanced or not, students will always take a little bit more time, and English would take a little bit less time. Generally, that's the expectation, and that's what happened. Okay. Okay, Pranav is asking, sir, can I choose CAT course of BYJU'S for IPMAT Indore because of difficulty level of questions? Please tell me. Pranav, yes, you can choose. You can reach out to our counselors. We will definitely help you out with the course. Jatin, when will the institute release the key? Jatin, you can expect the key in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So that's about 15 to 20 days. Okay. In fact, it will be faster also because it's an online thing. They can release the key quite soon. For example, a lot of exams after 12 release the key within the first 5-6 days itself. But last year, if I remember it, it was about 12 days to 13 days before the key was released. So that's what, not key, sorry, I'm talking about result, not the key. Guys, here the key, I don't know whether it will be released this year or not, but the result can be expected in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. So, or 2 to 2.5 weeks. Definitely not before 15 days. 15 plus days only. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, the next question is seating arrangement, syllogisms. Syllogisms were 3 to 4 questions. Statement conclusions, ranking, inequalities, dice. Okay, there's one problem. I don't know, guys, you have to tell me whether this is true or false. I was told that the dice question had images and the images were unclear, and that the images were too small and students could not really see. Sanket, I'm not going to solve the question from the paper. As I said, we are not supposed to do that. Anyway, the time will also not be enough. It was supposed to be a 45-50 minute session alone. But anyway, talking about this, guys, please confirm where the image is a problem. Many students mentioned to me that the images were too small. Even the zoom button did not really work. While clicking on the zoom button, the image did not really enhance, so they could not really differentiate between like letters between E and F and something like that. Quality was bad, so they really had to strain their eyes, and apparently some students got it wrong simply because the images were not clear. Right, so let's move on to talk about expected cutoff. So guys, this is a slide many of you have been waiting for. I already mentioned the general section cutoff will be around 280, but the remaining category cutoffs are over here. NC OBC should be in the range of about 213, 214 range. SC should be in the 170 plus range. ST should be in that about 150 plus range. EWS will be in the 225 plus range, and PWD will be in the 204 plus range. Now, what is the basis on which we've done this? Last year, your general category was around 265 was the cutoff. So our analysis says that this year's paper was, while English was difficult, there were two sections which were relatively easier than the last year's, or at least the same level or a little bit more easier. So I'm expecting the cutoff to be up by 3 questions. 3 questions is about 12 to 15 marks. That is the reason I'm putting the total as 280. So frankly, I would say it will be around 275 to 280. Okay, this will be my range. If I have to give a range, I have given just 280. 280 plus, I would probably say 275 to 280. I'm talking about 3 questions easier than last year. That's about 12 marks. So anywhere between this is what I'll say. 280 plus is the safe score, but cutoff I would probably say it will be around 275 to 280. So accordingly, you can just, from this, you can probably subtract 3 marks to 4 marks and you'll get the lower version of it. Clear, guys? So that's what I had in store. I had in store for you. So these are the cutoffs. I hope we have been helpful to you. I hope you've got some clarity on how the exam went, what could be the expected cutoff scores. Keep following our channel, subscribe to us. We are going to be back on the analysis for Indore 2. So you'll be getting to know how the paper was. We're going to discuss the difficulty level like we just did today. But yes, solving of questions may not be possible because Indore and Rohtak are both memory based papers, and the age limit is 20. You can't, people above 20 years cannot go and write. So I can't go and write, so I can't reproduce the entire questions entirely correctly. It's only based on the student's memory. So that's what it is, guys. Okay, questions about interviews. So some of you are talking about how to prepare for interviews. So please keep this in mind. Interview calls, your result will come with whether you're selected or not, which means, and also within, after getting the result, probably within a day or two, you will be getting a mail about your interview. So there will be around 20 days to 25 days time between the result and the interview. So now how to prepare the interviews? We are going to have detailed sessions for you guys. Let the Indore exam complete. Right now, don't worry about interview. Right now, focus on Indore. Once the Indore exam is done, we are going to come up with sessions for you talking about how should you prepare for interview, what should be done for the interview. Please stay tuned to our channel. That way, if you are in YouTube, please be subscribed to our channel. Click on the notification button. We are going to come back to you with a lot of such sessions. If you're in the app, we will give you push notifications. So please keep the push notifications on for our app, BYJU'S Exam Prep. We are going to have a lot of these sessions coming your way. Lavya Bhatia interview the date will be announced either on the day of the result itself or 1 or 2 days later. But yes, there will be a decent amount of gap. Don't worry. Don't expect that aaj result aa gaya and the next 5 days the interview is going to happen. No, it's not going to be like that. You will have 3 weeks or so gap between your result and the interview. So that's fine. Right, Aditya, IPMAT, safe score. My friend, we'll have to wait and see what is the exam pattern, what is the exam paper. You can look at the last year's cutoff, but I obviously I cannot say 2022 what is the safe score. It all depends on the paper, right? So I cannot comment on what will be happening this year. But yes, if you want to look at what could be a safe score, look at the cutoff for last year, add about 10 marks on top of it, because in GIPMAT, again, it's basically you have 3 sections and no sectional time limit. So please add not more than 10 marks, because that's good enough, a safe bet, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you, my friends. The results will be out. Yes, Lavia, the result will be out in the next 15 to 20 days, right? With that, I'm wrapping up the session, my friends. Thank you, and see you in a lot more of my indoor sessions, IPMAT indoor sessions. Thank you.